Hey guys, it's Elizabeth from Elizabeth Books, and I'm here today to do my January wrap-up. I read 27 books in January, so let's talk about them. So I read a lot of books on my Kindle, so I can't really show you them because it layers a lot, and I rented a bunch from the library on my Kindle, so I'll be holding it up when I talk about it. But first I read Maybe Not by Colleen Hoover, which is maybe some days companion novella, and it's in the point of Warren's view, which is the roommate of the main character in maybe someday, something like that. And it was okay. It was just him and how he loved his roommate Brigitte. People say it different, but I liked it. But it was very it was just very new adult, and all it was basically 100 pages of a sex scene. So it was good seeing the characters in a different point of view, but that's all it basically was. So it really wasn't for me. Then I read A Clash of Kings, A Song of Ice and Fire, #2 by George R.R. Martin. I read it all the last week of December, but I finished it in January, so I'm pretty proud about that because I love watching the Game of Thrones TV show, so I really wanted to read them all, and I didn't think I would get to them so soon because the first one took me 3 months to finish, but I read this one in about a week, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the show more, but I still really liked it. Then I read 2 Amber Brown books. I read Forever Amber Brown and Amber Brown Sees Red. I have this one with me. And they're cute. They're just a continuation of the Amber Brown series. Just a girl who's in 4th grade and her parents are going through a divorce, and her mom is going to get remarried, and she connects with the new guy, and he becomes her bowling coach, and her dad actually had moved away to Paris, and he moves back in town. So it's about her living in 2 different houses, and I mean, it's good, it's cute. I read them when I was younger, and I really like them still. Then I read The Night Circus on my Kindle by Erin Morgenstern. It was okay. I thought I would like it because I loved Water for Elephants, but I mean, it was a completely different story. I just thought it would be the same thing because of the circus thing, but this one was about 2 people who kind of have magician powers, and they're kind of there's they have a rivalry, and they have 2, one has a child and one has an apprentice, and they are using both of them to battle for each other, but they're not going to tell them when or why. So it's just about these 2 people growing up in the circus and the circus around them, and how it affects this kid around the circus. And I mean, it was good, but it was just really slow, and they never really explained anything, and I probably wouldn't read it again. I rented it or borrowed it from the library on my Kindle, and I would much rather just read Water for Elephants again because I liked that circus story a lot more. Then I read Side Effects May Vary by Julie Murphy on my Kindle, and I actually bought that one. And I really liked it. I wanted to read it all year, and I didn't really know what it was about. But it's about this girl who, she is diagnosed with, leukemia, so she thinks she's gonna die. So she does some really, kind of mean things because she's oh, no regrets. But then she finds out she's actually not going to die, so those things kind of come back to haunt her. But, I don't know, they made it seem such more dramatic, and the things she did were so, fake. She poured, paint on a girl's head, in Carrie. And I was just who would actually ever do that? I don't know. The things she did were just I guess if you think you're gonna die, maybe you would do these things. But I just felt it was very unrealistic, and I don't think people would ever do the things she did. But I don't know. It was okay, but I'm glad I don't actually own a copy of it, and I'm just glad I read it on my Kindle, because I'd probably reread it, but I don't want it to take up room on my shelf. Then I read The Sorceress, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, #3 by Michael Scott, and I borrowed that from the library on my Kindle, and I really didn't like it that much. I loved the first 2 books in the series, and this one was just very boring. It's all supposed to be the whole series is all supposed to be 1 week, so each book is one day and a start of another day, so they're 300, 400 pages of like one day that like much doesn't really happen. And yeah, and this one is just like nothing happened and it's just very slow. But I'm going to continue with the series because I want to find out what happens overall. It was just this one didn't have anything too exciting for me. And you just have to read it to get through the rest of the series. Then on my Kindle, I read Dare to You, which is the Pushing the Limits number 2 by Katie McGarry. And it's not really a sequel to the first, to Pushing the Limits. It's just, it follows these two other characters from the series. There's a girl named Beth that you know from the first book, and a boy named Ryan. I'm pretty sure he's not in the first book. But I liked it, like, overall, but when Ryan first meets Beth, she's wearing, like, black and, like, ripped clothes, and he calls her, like, Skater Girl to himself, which was just, like, a pet peeve for me. I was like, why would you call her Skater Girl? She isn't doing anything remotely, like, skatery or anything. I don't know. It was just weird to me. I'm like, why do people give people weird nicknames in books that, like, they don't need and they don't make sense, and I don't know. But the story overall was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. I'm just glad I don't actually, I'm glad I'm borrowing these books from the library and not, like, actually owning them, because they're not really my favorite. Everyone makes them sound, like, amazing, but they're really not that good. They're just, like, an okay contemporary, but they're not an amazing contemporary. And I have the third one borrowed, like, I have it. I want to borrow it from the library. I just don't have it yet, so I'll read that one soon, but yeah. Then I read Unenchanted and Unfortunate Fairy Tale number 1 by Sandra Hahn, and that was actually free on my Kindle, and I couldn't understand why it was free. It wasn't a bad story, it's just very, like, underdeveloped. It was about this girl who is, like, descendants of the Grimm brothers, so, and it's like her family has a curse on them. It's like the Grimm curse, and you have to, like, live through all of the Grimm fairy tales or you'll die, and it gets passed on. So her father has died, the Grimm brothers have died, her grandfather has died, blah, blah, blah. So her father has died, and now the curse is on her, and it's supposed to go on to boys, but it skipped and went to her instead of her little brother. So she, like, figures this out, like, her mom lets her know and blah, blah. And she lives through, like, 3 or so of the curses, and then the rest of the series is, like, on the Kindle, and you can buy them each for, like, $1.99 or, like, 99 cents each. And so, like, I kind of want to know what happens, but I don't know. The first book was, like, okay, but I liked the concept a lot. I just thought it was kind of boring and just kind of slow, but I think I would continue with the series, like, maybe not right now, but later. Then I read 2 more Amber Brown books. So I read Amber Brown is Feeling Blue and I Am Brown, and I have Amber Brown is Feeling Blue to hold up. But, I mean, continues with the story. Really, that's all that happens that I said before, and it's cute, and I like it. Yes. Then, I read These Broken Stars, Starbound number 1 by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, I believe. And I read that on my Kindle, borrowed it, and it was okay. I mean, this is another book that everyone says is, like, great and amazing, and I thought it was very, like, cliched. It's about, like, a girl, and she's, like, everybody, like, lives in space, and she's kind of like the movie star of space. Like, she's rich, and her dad's, like, rich and famous and blah blah, and so she, like, gets everything she wants, and she, like, crashes on, like, a planet with, like, a military guy, so he's very, like, oh, get this done, and she's very, like, whiny, and it's just them, and they're gonna fall in love, and blah, 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 but there's, like, a twist at the end that was, like, really dumb to me, and then there's, like, a second book in the series, but I don't think they're related. Like, I don't think it's the same characters, so, I mean, I kind of want to know what, like, read more about this planet or world or whatever, but I kind of don't. But I don't know, I would borrow it from the library. I wouldn't buy it, but yeah. Then I read Conversions by Catherine Howe. This was an okay book. It was, every other chapter was one chapter was like the 1800s and one was like present day, like it was like 2010 or something. And the 2010 ones were good to me. Like I liked it. It's about like the senior class and this like plague is happening to all these girls in this like Catholic senior class, except like the main character. And then it would switch to other chapters about like how it happened back in like 1800s, early 1900s. I think it was like the witch hunt, Salem witch hunt trial time. And those were just like weird and I don't know. I just didn't like those parts. And then you don't really know in the like 2010 parts, you don't really know if like she is like making this all up in her head or if like people are actually sick or people are just pretending to be sick for like publicity and fame. And at the end it's just kind of like, oh, conversion, like that's why you're sick, which is like I guess stress. And I don't know, it just kind of felt like a waste of time to read, and I'm glad I borrowed it because people made it sound really good and it was okay, but I don't know, I wouldn't probably read it again. Then I read another Amber Brown book. Yes, I had to read all of them, and that's Amber Brown is Green with Envy. She is green with envy. Same thing. I said plot. Yeah. Next book. Then I read The Eye of Minds, The Mortality Doctrine #1 by James Dashner on my Kindle. I bought this one. And I really hated James Dashner's The Maze Runner series, so I was really scared to read anything else by him. But I actually super liked this one. It was kind of like, it's like a video game book, so there's this world and you like plug into it and you live in the video games. If you die in it, like you don't die in real life. And so it's like every other video game book out there, like Ready Player One, and it's like the Reality Bug, which is Pendragon series #4. So they're all about the same, and so I mean I really enjoyed it because I love video games and I love that kind of plot, but I mean I didn't feel like it was very original or anything. And then it does get cooler because he's like asked by the government to like help take down this like hacker boss guy. So he goes through different games to try to find him and like stop the hacker, and his friends help him on the way, and it's really good and it's a series, so I want to continue with it, but I would just probably borrow them from the library or get them for like $1 on my Kindle. And I read Terribly Twisted Tales by Martin H. Greenberg. I think that's like who put it together because it was like 18 short stories and they were like fairy tale stories. And it was okay. I really didn't like that many of the stories. There was like one that was a Rumpelstiltskin retelling that was super good. And there was like a Puss in Boots / Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, and that one was really good too. And all the rest were just kind of like meh, okay. But I really did like the Rumpelstiltskin one, and I would like probably try to read that one again, but I could probably find it on the internet. Then I read Where'd You Go Bernadette by Maria Semple, and this was like such a disappointment for me. Everybody said this is like super funny. It wasn't funny at all to me. I don't know why it was like why people thought it was funny, because it just was told in like all these emails and memos, and then like the main character, which isn't Bernadette, Bernadette is like her mom, and then it was told in, like her mom's emails, and I don't know, it was just really like kind of confusing and it wasn't funny. But then in the end they go to Antarctica and the main character gets to go like look at penguins and research them, and I love penguins, so that part was cool, but the rest of it was dumb and it didn't even make sense, and I wouldn't reread it. It makes me sad. Then I read Anatomy of a Single Girl by, who are you? Daria Sanowski. Yes. And I read the first one, Anatomy of a Boyfriend, and that one's actually really good, and this one was just like, meh. It was okay. I don't think I ever read this one, because I know I read Anatomy of a Boyfriend growing up, and I don't think I ever read this one, but I don't think I would reread this one. It wasn't very good. It didn't really, like, continue the series that much. It was just, like, her being like moving on really fast and being like, let's date this other guy and then never mind, and I don't know. It wasn't very good. I didn't really like it. Then I read Leave the Window Open, the archived series, like 2.5, like novella. It was, you know, I don't even know how many, it was like 5 paragraphs, but by Victoria Schwab, and I read that on my phone, and it's just told in Wesley's point of view from the archived, and you learn his real name, which is beautiful, and you should read it, and it will take you 2 seconds because it's like 5 paragraphs, and yeah. Okay, I don't know how long it was, but it took like 2 minutes. And it was really good, and I liked it. Yeah. Then I read The Battle of the Labyrinth, Percy Jackson number 4. And this one was pretty good. I liked it the most. I liked the first one the best so far, but I liked this one better than 2 and 3. Well, it's kind of hard to describe without like ruining this series. They go in a labyrinth. Yeah. Stuff happens. Greek gods. Cool. Read it. It was good. Then I read Meant to Be by Lauren Morell. It's about a girl who goes on a school trip to London with her, like, I think it was like her government class. And they have to be like in group pairings, and of course she gets paired with the boy who's mean to her, and he calls her a book licker, which I don't know. I just want to call everybody a book licker now because it's ridiculously stupid. And like she didn't even like read books in it, and he would just be like, "Oh, book licker, you're looking at a map." And it was like, yes, she doesn't want to get lost, but okay, yeah. So, you know, he was mean to her, so you know what's gonna happen. Love. And, well, you know. And it was okay. I would probably reread it, but it wasn't my favorite contemporary. It was just very, like, predictable, and, yeah. Then I read Just One Year, and that's, like, Just One Day, number 2, by Gail Forman, and I didn't like this one very much. I liked Just One Day a lot, and this one was just kind of, I don't know, it was just very unrealistic. It's told in Willem's point of view, and I just feel like it just was very fake. Like, he went to India, and then he goes to, like, South America, and then he goes to, like, America, and he just, like, travels, and I don't know. I just feel like no one could actually ever do what he did, and I mean, I know people can, but just in this book setting, it just seemed very, like, fake and unrealistic, and he just met too many people. There was too many names to remember these people, and I don't know. The first one was good, but in this one I didn't really like it, but I still need to read the novella Just One Night, because I think it sort of ties them together more, but I'm not really sure, but I'll get to that. Then I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, which was amazing. I love this way more than Throne of Glass because I loved the Assassin's Blade, like the novellas, and then Throne of Glass I was just kind of like, meh, it's okay. And then this one was super good, and it's just a continuation of Selena, the main character, being an assassin, and what she has to do, and all the people she assassinates and stuff, and the thrill and the ride, and yeah, it was very good, and I'm excited for the next one. Then I have a bunch of books I read on my Kindle again. I have The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and this one was okay. I'm glad I borrowed it, because again, it was like really short, and you had to pay like, you know, full price hardcover for it, because they're mean like that. And it was just about this like kid, or it's about this guy and his I think he's going to a funeral, and he goes and visits his like old home, and so he just kind of has like a flashback about his life when he was like 10 and what happened. And he had like a neighbor, and his neighbor thought the pond by their house was an ocean, so it's the ocean at the end of the lane, and just about how he like lived with her, and she was kind of magical, and this magical stuff that happened when they were together, and that's about it. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And yeah. Then I read No One Else Can Have You by Kathleen Hale, and she's the author that has like a lot of controversy against her because she stalked a publicist, stalked a reviewer. I think she stalked like a reviewer. So people are like, don't read her book, blah blah blah, but I still wanted to read it because, you know, so I borrowed it from the library. So it didn't count, right? Yeah. And it was okay. It was a murder mystery book, and I thought it was just like a contemporary, but it's like a contemporary murder mystery. I don't know. It was really weird, but I mean, it kept me guessing. I didn't know who like the murderer was the whole book. I thought it was somebody, and then, you know, they made you think it was someone and it wasn't, and then it was somebody I didn't like think it would ever be this person, but it was, and then so like that part was good, but overall the characters were just very fake and very unrealistic characters, and I don't think I would reread it, but if I did, I would borrow it from the library. But I mean, it wasn't a horrible book, it just wasn't great, and the author is insane, I guess, so, you know, don't stalk me for reviewing your book. Then I read A Storm of Swords, A Song of Ice and Fire, number 3 by George R. R. Martin. So this month I went crazy and had to read Game of Thrones. And actually I'm doing a little TBR every month that Catty-tastic is doing, Cat from Catty-tastic, and she just did 12 different challenges and put them in a little jar and mixed it up, and I didn't grab mine till like halfway through the month, and mine was read a book with 500 plus pages. So I didn't count the first Game of Thrones because I started that one like the end of December. I read it for like a week in December. I finished it in January, so I'm counting this one as that challenge because it had 1,200-ish pages, and I read that in about 3 days because I was really hooked on it and I had to read it. And it's amazing because all the good stuff happens in it, because I watched the TV show, so it's basically season 3 and 4 of the TV show plus like some extras. So it was really good because those are the 2 exciting seasons, I feel like, and they added a lot of stuff in the show that isn't in the books unless it's later in the books. They're just adding it now and I don't know because I haven't read 4 and 5 yet. But it was really good and I loved it in Game of Thrones. Yay! And finally, the last book I read in January was The Young Elites by Marie Lu, and I borrowed that from the library on my Kindle, and it was so good. It's about this girl and her mother dies and her father is like really cruel to her. She has like powers kind of that like and her father just like resents her for them, and he's like, you'll never get married and blah blah blah, and she escapes and joins the Young Elites, which is other young people who have powers, and it's actually really good, and it reminds me of Throne of Glass, kind of like the assassiny-ness part, like it's kind of like that, and it's pretty dark, and it was really exciting, and I kind of want to own it because it was beautiful, and I just borrowed it from the library, and because I would reread it, and I think it's going to be a series, so I'm excited because it just kind of, not like cliffhanger ended, but it just kind of ended, and it could, you know, more could happen, so I want to read more, and yeah. So yeah guys, that was everything I read in January. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me what you guys read in January too. Bye guys.